Hey folks, JP Dillon here. Wasn't supposed to rain for another week or so, but we just magically got a deluge, as you may be able to hear. So here's the rainy day project. This is a Panasonic RS-818R. It's a 8-track receiver. This was sent in by a viewer, and the problem it has is that it is stuck in record mode. And the linkage that operates the push button switch also seems to be jammed. So we're going to take this thing apart and figure out what's causing that and see if we can rectify it. Now, given that these are somewhat mechanically daunting, I'm going to break the video down and simplify it a little bit. So the first thing we're going to do is get the thing apart and study the linkage. Okay, so once you take the back off and the bottom off, you can access the 6 screws that take the top off. And once you get the top off, here's what the inside of an RS-818s looks like. Sorry if I said R earlier, it's actually an 818s. And looking down into the 8-track well here, I'm not sure if you can see it very well. See if I can shine some light onto it. Down there is a piece of linkage that attaches the record button to the record play slide switch, which is buried in the center of the board here. So somewhere here it's jammed because we can press on it. We can see that the linkage behind there is also jammed. And let's see if I can rotate this a little bit and shine a light down in here. Yeah, let's see. It's kind of hard to see where it is, but where I'm shining the light is a rod. It's a connecting rod, which then presses on that switch there. And when I press the button, you can kind of see that move back and forth. Now that just activates the that switch there, that slide switch, is just part of the indicator circuit. There's another one that it attaches to, which is up here. We're going to have to flip the machine over to see that. So let me pause here and flip the machine on its top. And here it is on its top. And you can see that the linkage also presses on this bit here, which then moves and presses on the slide switch. Now I can already see what the problem is. If we shine a light down in here, not sure if you can see that. Let me zoom in. Sorry for the shakes here. But we can see that the guide pin is missing the whole of the switch. It's a misalignment. Gosh, I wish I had better lighting in here. But somehow the guide pin got out of the switch and it's now pushing the switch to be in force it to be in record mode. That explains the symptom. But there's not a lot of play here, so it's not like you can just pull that up and reset it. Which probably means that somebody had the 8-track mechanism out to change a belt or do some other kind of service on it. And in putting it all back together, they misindexed that. Let's see here how we can go about getting that out. Doesn't seem to be an easy way. That bracket is held here by these 2 screws, one here and one at the back. So in order to get to that, we're probably going to have to pull the 8-track mechanism out, or, yeah, no, that's pretty much it. Let's assess it from the top side and see if I can see it a little better, or maybe that circuit board's just blocking my access to it. Well, looking from the top side here, it doesn't appear as though I'm going to have easy access to that. That's one screw down there. Those are the 2 screws I need to get to, which seem fairly easy. Let's see here, there's my finger. That's the solenoid to change the tracks. Let's see if the elevator is working while I'm in here. Yep, appears to be. That's good. Alright. So if we loosen those two screws, then we should be able to move that bracket enough. I'm not going to fully take them out, I'm just going to loosen them. We'll take that bracket enough to where we can get the switch repositioned. So let's go ahead and loosen those screws, and let's see what happens then. I'm just going to loosen them enough, almost back them all the way out, just to give it some slop. That bracket's moved all the way towards the front of the machine, so that's easy to remember without keying it. So I'm going to back it until it gets loose, and let's flip it on its top again and see if we've gained any more clearance. Well, never mind, those aren't the two right screws. They don't loosen that bracket. That bracket still stays stationary. There's another layer of metal directly beneath this one that the bracket's mounted to, so we can't do that either. However, what we can do is we can loosen the board and pull it up enough to get the guide pin, which is sitting here, back into the switch. So let's take up the mounting screws for the board. I'm just going to take them out. Looks like somebody's had this board up, because the board should be sitting like that. It was sitting underneath this bracket. And let's see, here's another screw on this. I've got enough flexibility. Oh, yes, I do. Okay, I have enough flexibility with those two screws removed. So, let's get the light back on this so you guys can see what I'm doing here. So, what we're looking at there, about center, is the guide pin for that switch, which is this guy here. That needs to go into that hole. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift up on the board enough to where that clears. Oh, look, it wants to snap back into place. And now, let's guide the pin down into the hole. It's hard to see here. The camera exposure wants to be such that you can't really see anything. And that doesn't help me too much. Anyway, the pin's almost there, it's just a little bit too far in. So I think what I'll do is press on the switch ever so slightly. And let's see if I can get that to fit in there. There we go. Okay. Put the board back down. And now let's check. And if I press on the record button, let's see, it still feels kind of jammed at the front, but at least it's movable here and the pin moves here. So I think now we're back to square one where this guy was before, and we have to take a look and see what's causing that not to engage. Just keeps getting more and more interesting. I'm going to ponder over this and then we'll continue. Okay, well, I figured this one out. What it turned out to be is sticking linkages. You've got first an interlock piece down here, which is supposed to slide this way based on whether it's a recordable 8-track or not, which is jammed. And then secondly, I don't know if you can see down in there. Let me see if I can zoom in to a point where you can. There's another piece of linkage associated with the front panel. See how there's two pieces on top of each other? Well, the top one is supposed to pivot slightly, which acts as a latching mechanism, which was also sticky. Now, it wasn't too hard to get down in there. All I had to do was take up the board again, and there's a screw here that you loosen. You can separate the two pieces enough to get a Q-tip and some alcohol in there and clean it all up. I suppose you could also spray penetrating lube in there, but probably not the best idea. Anyway, so all I have to do now is just resecure this board. But as you can see, when I press on the record button, the switch now activates. Now, if there's no tape in there, there's a problem, because the latch will be in the record position until you release it, with my finger there, or if the tape was removed. So don't press record unless you've got a recordable tape in there. Otherwise, you got to take it all apart to manually release the mechanism. That wasn't a great idea, but I'm sure Panasonic didn't think anyone was going to do that. Well, if you have kids in the household, they probably would. So all the switches activate now. Both the indicator lamp and the main record play slide switch move, and I can release it by faking it into believing that there's a non-recordable tape in there. If there is a non-recordable tape, it will move the slide over so that the switch can be pushed in but not latched. But I had to fake it out to do that. So again, don't don't press the button unless you intend to record. Anyways, this has been a little quick repair video. I've already chemically treated all the switches and controls to clear up some channels dropping out. Surprisingly, most of the capacitors in here still test pretty good, so this must be a fairly low hour set. I'm going to do some more tests and make sure that the head alignment and stuff on this is correct, and then it's going to go back to its owner. So Joe, if you're watching this, don't press the button unless you're throwing a tape in. But otherwise, this should work good. We'll check the speed and everything else on it next week, and then you'll be hearing from me. But anyways, folks, thanks for watching the video. More stuff to come soon.